Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by senior on the Denver women's lacrosse team, Caroline Colimore. In her lacrosse career, Caroline has played in 64 games and currently has 51 goals, 10 assists, 61 points, 20 caused turnovers, and 31 ground balls. This allowed Caroline to be named on the All Big East first team. Before college, Caroline was an academic honor roll honoree and member of the Art Honor Society and One Love Club at Notre Dame Prep School. And I'm super excited to have her on today. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Caroline. And how is everything going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everything's good. I'm not back at school yet, even though it's August 30th. Denver does trimesters, so we go back a little bit later. So I'm just kind of soaking up the last few weeks or few days of summer before I have to go back to Denver. But I'm super excited to go back. I love
That's
it there.
awesome. When
Mhm.
does your fall ball officially start since your academic calendar is a little bit different than everyone else's?
So our first day of classes for school is September 9th, and that's technically when fall ball starts too, I guess. That's when we also have our run test that day. So that's our first thing with the team. We don't have practice that day, but that's when we have run tests. So I would say that's when fall ball kicks off. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you had the chance to meet any of the new freshmen transfers on your team? And what's that sort of been like for yourself to sort of get to know some of the newer players on your team?
hmm So I'm from Baltimore, as we'll probably get into that whole story. But two girls are coming in from Baltimore as well. One went to my high school, so I knew them kind of previously, and then I've met everyone else just from their visits. And I lived in Denver this summer for the majority of it. I came back at the beginning of August to home, but so they came for camp, and I was able to really meet them all, and we did stuff with them, like some upperclassmen and them, and it was really great to meet them. They're all super excited and also nervous, which is fun to navigate and help them with, but probably for them it's not fun to be nervous, but it's exciting to have new people on the team, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Well, overall, how was your summer? Did you do anything interesting during the summer, whether it was on the field or off the field?
So this summer I had an internship in Denver in consulting. And I really liked that. It was an awesome experience. I really, really liked it. And I'm excited I'm going to be able to go back to that company full time when I graduate, which is super awesome to have that figured out. So then I can really focus on lacrosse this whole year, which is great. But honestly, kind of for lacrosse wise, same old, same old. I just have been working on everything that working out, staying in shape, playing lacrosse while I can.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of my next question. What are some of the things you've been working on this summer to sort of get ready for fall ball? As a senior, was there any specific drills that you did to sort of improve certain areas of your game to make yourself more of a versatile player?
Mhm. Definitely just harping on the things. I'm definitely a regimented person with all of that, just staying on certain drills I've kept doing. So I feel like my feedback is more just keep shooting, keep doing this. So I kind of just usually harp on things like that. For specifics, I usually work on a power shot, even though that's not really my style, but it definitely helps my shot overall. So that's something that I always work on when I have time, and also just working on these are specifics, but also working on interceptions. My twin sister throw it against a bounce back, and I'll run it and intercept it. And that drill always helps me just because that's something it's hard to practice when you're not in a game or in a drill, but the muscle memory of it definitely I feel helps me. But being in Denver this summer, I was able to work out with my team trainer, which was also awesome. Obviously, it just feels like you're kind of still in the swing of things and really being productive when you're with your school trainer and with some teammates. So that was good to be able to keep doing that while I was there. And then when I came home, I just kept working on all of that and really did more lacrosse once I got home, since I didn't have a 9 to 5 anymore. I had more time, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I've never had a Denver player on the podcast before, so I'm always curious, is it hard to adjust to the altitude once you get to college? I know as a freshman it definitely is, but I'm curious if it's that way during your sophomore and junior years. And as a senior, since you were in Denver this summer, do you think the adjustment to the altitude will be easier for yourself since you've been in it for most of the summer?
Yeah. I get this question a lot, and sometimes I don't feel a difference. But then sometimes I feel I feel a difference more I'm there and I'm okay and I'm working out and it's fine. And then if let's say I come back to Maryland, I feel way better running. I'm not as tired because it's way easier to run down here than up there. But when I go there, I don't really feel a difference. But that might just be because I'm used to it. And freshman year, I don't really remember anything either.
Hmm.
But some girls get it differently. I think it just depends, but I don't really feel anything. More coming back down, I feel like better, which is
Definitely
an
advantage.
advantage. Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because maybe it's a road team thing because they're only there for a few days, so they have
Mhm.
it's much more of a bigger adjustment, it must feel like, than when you're there, you're sort of used to it going back and
Yeah.
forth. But it's definitely something I find interesting with your team since you're in such a unique environment compared to the other
Yeah.
teams in your conference.
Yeah, it definitely is. When they come in, like usually you feel the attitude the third day. So when teams come in, they'll come in, practice once, play us, and like leave right away. So it doesn't really even affect them.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually the third day is when you feel it. So
Hmm.
maybe I'll think about that more when I'm there after 3 days. But I just feel like I don't even can't even tell.
No, don't try not to think about it too much. So
Yeah.
that's how you sort of that you don't want to focus on that because I want to give you the best advantage as possible. So
Yeah, for sure.
now, obviously, you're a senior this season. So what type of leadership have you thought about trying to bring to the team? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
Definitely that's also something I've been working on this summer a lot, just thinking about ways I can lead. I did get elected a captain for this next year, which is super exciting. So definitely just trying to think about ways how I can implement myself, obviously, as a leader. I would say I'm more lead by example, just kind of showing like how a pile plays lacrosse, like leading by example of how we all should be playing and not even like off the field stuff too, just acting and all of that. But I'm definitely trying to become more of a vocal leader. That's like a challenge I'm definitely putting on myself. I wouldn't say I'm quiet, but I definitely sometimes will get more internal with myself and how I'm playing, which I can't do as a captain, obviously, or a senior, anyone. Like you have to be vocal and cheering everyone else on and not just be in your own head, I guess. So definitely been like getting better at that. Definitely last year I was able to think what I'm thinking to give myself positive feedback, say it to everybody else too, I guess. Just trying to work on that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I would probably respond better to like both, but I feel like if you everyone can talk about what they think everyone should do, but I feel like if you don't exemplify that, it's hard for people to listen. So I think, at least for me,
100%.
I totally understand where you're trying to set that example first before becoming more vocally because people can see that you're putting in the work and they can sort of follow you in that regard. And then when you talk, it definitely brings more volume because they can see what the type of leadership that you've been trying to bring it from an example standpoint.
Exactly. I feel like sometimes we'll have meetings where we're all just talking and I'm like, are we actually gonna like do any of this? Like someone needs to be doing it and be like, she's doing great. Let's all follow her lead.
Mhm.
With something, but I totally agree. It's exactly how I was thinking about it.
Well, I now want to transition and start talking about the beginning of your career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So, you're from Hunt Valley, Maryland. So, talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing lacrosse?
I feel like you probably know this, but in Maryland, obviously, lacrosse is like the soccer, like that's just what you start playing. So I feel like no one ever like asked me if I wanted to. I just started doing it when I was like 5. I think I was 5 when I started playing and literally haven't stopped. But yeah, just started playing then and then did all of the things, got into club like before. That was probably more serious when I got more serious when I got into club when I was like 11 maybe, which is kind of young, I feel like, but I feel like it even is younger now, but I played, this was definitely integral. I had Courtney and Casey Connor were my coaches at my first club. And they both played at Maryland and Courtney Connor started the program at ASU after she like coached us at our club when we were younger, but they definitely like made me aware of like that I have a gift and that like I should keep playing and that like it's something I could do for the long term. So that was definitely beneficial. And then the next club I moved to, Brooke Schreiber was my coach, and she now coaches at Navy. So I was blessed to have like amazing coaches through when I was young and like developing, not just like someone's parents.
Hmm.
But I feel like that was huge. And you can't really get that anywhere but Maryland because it's the hotbed, and everyone around you also is just so good. So it makes you so much better. But that's probably how I started playing, really. And the huge thing about Maryland is that just everyone's so good and it makes you so much better.
It must be cool to see Courtney now on TV killing it in the broadcast game.
Yeah, it is. I know. It's so cool. I'm like, oh, that's my coach. She's the best. Yeah.
Now, one thing I've noticed about yourself just looking at your profile is your dad played lacrosse at Fairfield University. So, what was it like growing up with someone who played lacrosse at a high level, and how did he sort of help you in your lacrosse career? I know the men's game is different from the women's game in certain aspects, but I feel like there was a lot of knowledge he probably passed down to you and your sister.
Yeah. I think both my parents, like my dad definitely just pushed us to like be practicing, just to like take it seriously once I guess they realized like we weren't like too bad at this. Cause I feel like all parents are just like, oh, it's a sport, but then you're like, wait, like they could probably keep playing and go to cut whatever that's more than just a sport at one point and you like make that decision. So I think my dad was definitely integral in like understanding, but also like giving us feedback, pushing us to go play. Like he'll play with us all the time too, and like give us feedback. Not so much now because he's like, you definitely know more than me now. But uh, yeah, both my parents are definitely just great for like support, and definitely having them was awesome. That the things they were telling me wasn't like they were just guessing, like they also knew from experience, which was definitely helpful.
I feel like your dad probably has to give himself a little more credit. He probably knows a little bit still today.
Maybe. Yeah, he does. He loves watching it. He's like obsessed, like tells me a bunch of random stuff that's always going on in lacrosse. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's definitely there's certain parts about being a fan that I would assume are more fun than being a player, but at the same time, I feel like he's probably more nervous watching you guys play than when he played, just because there's a lot that he can't control.
Yeah, he gets so nervous for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, who were some of your favorite lacrosse players and teams that you like to watch?
I think like I like was trying to think of teams, but I kind of just remember watching it all and just thinking like all like I feel like during that era, like when I was younger, like Marie McCool, like Taylor Cummings, they were all just like so good. All the teams were so competitive. So I feel like all those teams, but definitely watch Marie McCool and Allie Kennedy a lot. I think Allie Kennedy's also like short and fast, and that's kind of my style. So I think watching her really helped me, like even now in like AU Pro, that's who I like definitely watch and try to learn from and like take parts of what she's doing into what I could do since we're similar play. Because I think that's really important to like look for someone that you're similar to. Because I know I'm not 6 foot, like I can't do things that someone like that's doing. So taking it from someone who's similar to me definitely helps.
Now, you get to play college lacrosse along with your twin sister Ella. What has it been like growing up with her, and what's it like being teammates with her at Denver? Because not many people can say that they got to play high school, club, and college lacrosse with their sisters. So that must be cool that you have someone to sort of go through this journey with.
Yeah, she's my best friend. Like I could not imagine like lacrosse or not, like not going to school with her. Like being with her every day is definitely so important. Um, and playing with her is also awesome. I think we have a great dynamic. I feel like sometimes you could think like that could be bad having sisters on a team, like fighting, whatever, just because you're so close. But I think we have such a good dynamic and we play really well together. We're super similar. But definitely like it's grown because we used to both be middies in high school and we like would be on the same line. Like we would play together, which was super fun. She's an attacker now at Denver, so we don't, and at Denver there's only one midi, so we don't have lines. But we definitely like play together in a different way now. And it's kind of cool being able to like we play more different now, which is we used to be really similar, now we're super different. And I think it's cool the way we've grown that way. But it's awesome to be with each other. And I think also we can just be like honest with each other, like what do you think I could have done better today? And you can just like
Yeah.
obviously you can go to your coach and say that, but sometimes from someone like on the field with you, it helps too. And we can just like tell each other stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have that sort of mindset where you know what she's going to do sometimes before she knows? Because I sometimes talk to twins and they say they have that sort of mindset, but I don't know if that's like a twin thing or just some like for random players, it's differently.
Yeah. I feel like maybe I do, but I do feel like sometimes I'll like know someone's habits, like another teammate too, and know what they
Mhm.
might do. But I think sometimes like definitely Ella and I'll be like, okay, like I feel like I know like she's about to cut or something, and I'll know. Like I feel like sometimes we play together and it really works so well. Like whenever
Mhm.
my grandparents come to our games, they're like, oh my God, you passed to each other. Like that was so exciting. Like, yeah, what? We do it all the time. So funny.
Well, before college, you played for your prep school at Notre Dame. So just talk about your lacrosse experience there, what you took away from it, and what's your favorite memory from those lacrosse days when you look back on it now.
Yeah, playing at NDP was definitely a huge part of my success, I would say. And like probably a lot of the girls who went there would say that. I know a lot of them have been on the podcast, some of my friends, like Annie and stuff. But I think just it was super competitive. And like I said, everyone was so good. Like rarely you made varsity as a freshman. Like that didn't really happen. Like I did not make it my freshman year. Only two freshmen did, two of my friends. Like you're not, I feel like compared to other girls, like if you go to D1 lacrosse, you were a star your whole career in high school, like since freshman year, like you were the best. That's just not the case at any Maryland school. And I think that's what makes us probably have an advantage. Like anyone who goes to any school in Maryland, just everyone's so good. And it's not just like easy, it's fun, but like you're really working hard. And I think it definitely taught me what I would take away is just like competitive, like being competitive, how hard work pays off, practicing all of that. And like a definitely mental strength component because I think in college, a lot of girls are so used to playing every game, whatever, and you get to college, and that's obviously not the case when you're a freshman. So definitely, I like was able to like deal with that better because not my senior year, I literally never even started, which is just crazy at NDP, just because everyone was so good. Um, so it's just so weird to look back and think that and be like, wow, now I'm a junior starting in D1 program, and I
Hmm.
never even started in high school, which not many people can probably say. But so definitely the competition, and also our coach. Me like we like at Denver we play music. It's like definitely fun at times, and in high school like it's obviously was still super fun, but like we would never have played music. Like it was very regimented, which I think helped me going into college as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think the huge things are just the competition. Everyone was just so great. Like I think 20 girls went to D1 programs on my team. It was crazy.
Yeah.
As a senior. So yeah, everyone was really good.
Definitely helps you find your role as a freshman in college too. I think that's like a really hard thing to sort of prepare for as a high school player because like you said, so many players are so used to being the number one option on their team. And then once you get to college, especially at a D1 level, you're sort of have to find a different role because everyone was sort of the best player on their team. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of players sort of struggle with that at times. But for you, that must have been sort of an easier transition because you sort of know what it takes to sort of fill in a role and sort of grow from that. And I think that's pretty cool to hear from your perspective. And it's probably why Maryland is the best lacrosse state in the country right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all that.
Well, what was your recruiting process like with Denver? What made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
I think I've always loved Colorado. Like ever since I was young, I like went to Colorado. I'm like a skier. I don't get to do it as much as I would like in Colorado right now with lacrosse, but I used to go on vacations all the time, my family to Colorado, so I just kind of knew I wanted to live there at some point in my life. And then when Denver kind of happened and we knew they were interested, I was like, this is perfect. And I now like obviously Liza has such a great rep and she's an amazing coach and I always just heard great things. And also I had when I was a freshman, four juniors were from Baltimore and three of them went to NDP and I was like super close with all of them. So I was like, well, it can't be bad if four people I'm like friends with went there and love it. So I kind of like had people who had experience there and loved it, loved Colorado, just kind of fit in perfectly. Like I like committed on September 5th. Like I literally just didn't, I was like, yep, perfect.
Yeah. What was like the biggest adjustment you had to make though as a freshman? I am curious about that.
I think just being far away, but having my twin there made it so much easier. Like we were obviously she's my sister. Like having Ella was amazing. I like it wasn't I didn't have that bad of a freshman year. I wasn't like struggling too much, but I think it's definitely just the load of it all. But I feel like I knew all this was happening. Like I knew I was gonna have 4 hour practices. I knew I'd be busy. So I guess it wasn't like a surprise. And I feel like I was pretty used to being busy. Even in high school, like I would go from like when I was super young, like go from like school practice to club practice, like do stuff like that. So I feel like I was kind of ready for it. But I think definitely just like advice, I guess, for like going in as a freshman, just don't get carried away in it all. Let it like totally stress you out. Just still remember that like I guess like you're you, like do what you can do that day and work as hard as you can. That's all I would say. And just don't forget about how you play. Like, don't try not to compare yourself as much as possible and just play as hard as you can every day. And then you have the rest of the day to like kind of not think about it. Definitely, like, I would let it sometimes freshman year after practice, I would just think about it all day and I would drive myself nuts about what I did that day in practice, which is just probably not healthy. So, trying to separate lacrosse and school and social life and all that is definitely important because then you can show up your best the next day.
Now, talk about what it's like playing in the Big East and the competition you face each game. It's not, I guess it's a conference that doesn't get publicized as much as maybe the Big Ten or ACC, but I think there's a lot of good teams in your conference, including yourself, UConn, Georgetown. So, What's it like being a part of that conference, especially since it's a bit weird because you're sort of like the non-Big East member of the Big East because obviously Denver needs the final lacrosse conference. So I'm just curious what it's like being a part of that conference.
Yeah, I love being in it. It's what a lot of girls do since we're all from the East Coast. So perk is we get to go close to home, our families can come, that side of it. But um definitely like there's obviously like you said, there's bigger conferences. So I think for a team like us who has been able to be in the top 10 in the past, be in the top 4 in the past, like we take our beginning games like pretty seriously. Like that's where we can get our ranking up. And then if we crush the Big East, we can like stay in that sweet spot. Like usually winning and losing in the Big East, or we usually don't lose, knock on wood, but doesn't really affect our ranking. So I guess like definitely just that difference. Like the ACC teams are like, we're ready for ACC play. Like that's what is going to make or break our ranking in our season. But um for us it's different. But also I feel like thinking about ranking isn't good. Like
Mhm.
that's not how you play well. But also, like you said, there's great competition in the Big East, and we've had definitely close games this past year. Everyone just wants to beat us. We have the target on our back, so I think that's definitely um, makes it different playing in the Big East for us. We're like the big dog, and in other conferences we wouldn't be. So playing with a target on our back, a chip on our shoulder is definitely something we do at Denver, and trying just to keep playing our lacrosse and do as well as we can. But I think it's definitely there was roadblocks in the Big East. Like we felt like wasn't as strong, but last year I was like, this is a strong conference. Everyone's super good. So
Yeah, it also prepares you probably well for the tournament because maybe in the ACC, a team plays another team and they might not, that team they're playing may not take them as seriously as other teams in their conference where you guys, every team is going to give you their best. And when you
mhm.
go in the tournament, you're sort of expecting that every team's going to give your best, so you're sort of prepared for that. I don't know, it's just
Mhm.
something that popped in my head. So that's definitely one sort of advantage maybe that you guys have in
Yeah,
your conference that other teams might not have.
that's true. Everyone comes out guns
Mhm.
blazing to play us. So yeah, we're used to that like hardcore, I guess, where some teams might be like, oh, whatever. This is like a
Mhm.
whatever game. Yeah.
Well, I want to sort of look back on some of the past 3 seasons that you've been with Denver. So in your freshman year, your team won your first Big East championship in your career over Georgetown in overtime. Talk about what that championship meant to you and what was going through your head when Barron scored that goal.
That was like such an amazing game. I was talking about the other day and we were saying like I feel like that moment like honestly set us forward for how well we did the next year. And like she wasn't even there, but like just that like belief we all had in each other. Like I was like, we're not gonna lose. That's what I was thinking. Like overtime after overtime, I was like, we're not gonna lose, we're gonna win. Like that's all I always thought that year. And even the next year, I always just was like, we don't lose. So I think that mentality is honestly like good because you just play so hard and like with so much confidence. But in that moment, it was like amazing. I just knew she was gonna kill it, and winning was just so much fun at home. Like that was a memory I'll remember forever. It was great.
What's she up to now? Because I was looking at her stats. She did so well with Denver, and I'm surprised she wasn't in like AU lacrosse or anything like that. Maybe this shows my little bit of a newness as a lacrosse fan.
No, yeah, she's great. She's still living in Denver. She coaches for a club, helps out with that sometimes, but also has a job and just loves Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think AU was pretty new when she graduated. It may have only been 2 years old, so I don't
Okay.
even know if they had like great outreach to like
Hmm.
Denver. Maybe I don't
Yeah.
know. Like just thinking of those big schools, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
for kids, she
Well, we
got
gotta
there.
try to get her on the podcast maybe and sort of catch up and see what she's been up to.
Yeah.
Well, in your freshman year, you had your first tournament experience where you beat Vermont. So just talk about your first tournament experience and sort of what you took away from that and how it sort of set the stage for your sophomore year.
I think definitely going into tournament, it was definitely um I learned that like that's a new season starting. That's what my coach always says, like it's a clean slate. We're all on the same page. It doesn't matter what you've won or lost in the past. Like you can be playing Vermont and literally win, but that didn't happen, but like you never know. So I think just like thinking of it in that way is definitely healthy, but also and I never really think I didn't think in the moment I would think of it like that, I guess, until our coach said that or Liza said that. But also experience is everything in that situation. Like there's more pressure, there's more going on, like it's every game's make or break. So definitely realizing that it's experience is huge. And obviously as a freshman, I didn't have that. But being able to playing that game and like do that was experience. So I was really grateful to be able to like make an impact and do what I could in the tournament my first year. Um, and be able to learn just about the new pace of it all and how it all works. But experience is everything, I would say, in the tournament.
Now, obviously, during your sophomore year, your team had a historic season, winning the Big East championship game again, heading to the Final Four while only losing one game. How have you reflected on that season, I guess, now as a senior and that tournament run, especially the North Carolina game, beating them on the road to make it to the Final Four? That's probably, I would imagine that's probably your so far the best moment in your Denver lacrosse career.
Yeah, it definitely was. That game was like amazing. I just again, I just remember thinking like we're not gonna lose. Like we don't lose. That's all I thought. And we didn't. Like we just were all so close. And also it felt like such a moment of like we were all so happy and like proud of each other and what we all did. That moment was just amazing. And I just remember it was just such a special team that year. We were all so close. We were on the road so much that year. We only had like 5 home games, which is insane. So I think that also made us like just so resilient and able to like play our best all the time, it felt like. But yeah, that game was my favorite moment, definitely by far, at Denver so far. But yeah, I think just um it was just so special. And like I remember just thinking like sitting in the stands like with all of our parents and we're thinking like this is like if you told me I would be at the Final Four, like be North Carolina and going to the Final Four if I was like 8 years old, I would be like, you're lying. Like that did not gonna happen. So I just remember feeling like grateful that I'm able to experience that.
Yeah, what was the Final Four experience like? I know you guys obviously ended up losing against Northwestern, but still must have been cool to sort of have that red carpet experience and obviously all the media attention around it. Must have been really good for the program.
Yeah, it was really cool and super good for the program. Like we that's what Denver has wanted and like we always knew we could do that. Liza always knew like we were capable of like being that good and we kind of proved it and that we can do that again this year. Like we are that good and I think it was such a cool experience being there and I feel like we would just like see the teams and we are like Denver should not be up there. Like is that a typo? Like we were all kind of joking. Like it just was like that was such a cool experience for us and we were definitely the underdogs obviously all season so it was so cool to be there and but I felt like we deserved it too. We were like we get to be here, we're undefeated, we're the only undefeated team, like we should be getting more hype for
Yeah.
that. It was awesome. Yeah.
Now, last season, your team won another Big East championship and made another NCAA tournament appearance. What were your thoughts on last season and what you thought your team did well and didn't do well, I guess?
Yeah, last season was interesting. I think obviously after sophomore, like I just talked about, we were just so like proud of that year and excited to keep going and thinking we can go further. But obviously it's a new team. No matter if you only lose, I think we only lost like 4 starters. That's still a huge difference, even though it's like not, it still is. It's a new team. And I think we kind of took that too lightly, thinking it would be the same, and it totally wasn't. I think our biggest problem was just consistency. Unfortunately, we just didn't really play consistent game to game, and we didn't really feel like we were all on the same page a lot of the time. And I think we had, like I said, I want to be a lead by example leader, and you can talk the talk about everything we need to be doing, but if no one's actually applying it, or it's hard to, we're just not like on the same page trying to apply it, I feel like that was kind of a problem we ran into, just like saying the things we should be doing, but not for some reason it wasn't clicking. And yeah, but it was still a great building year, like realizing that you can't just play, have a really good season and keep going. That's not how it works. You have to really like think about the people on your team and how that group can like do the best they can, win a national championship and not think about the past too much.
Yeah. So what do you think your team's goals and expectations are going to be like for the next season, knowing what you sort of learned from your junior year?
I mean, every year we go for the national championship, like that's our goal. And honestly, going in my freshman year, like I did not think that's what like Liza would be saying for some reason, which is just dumb. And so then that's really like our mentality. Like we want to win the national championship and we know that we can. We proved that my sophomore year. Like I just think that's huge to like I said not think about the past, but know that we're capable of that. Like Denver lacrosse can do that. So I think our goals are just to stay I would say take it game by game, stay consistent, focus on things like as a team on and off the field. I think that's what makes a team super strong is when everyone feels like friends. I think that's just so important. I think we can definitely focus on that for this next year. And I want to harp on that as a leader, like being close on and off the field, putting everything into every practice, working as hard as possible. I feel like last year we kept being like needing to remind each other to like work hard, and I was like, we shouldn't have to say that. We shouldn't.
Mhm.
So, and that's Denver lacrosse. It's working hard every day you're out there and trying to be as consistent as possible.
Now, over the course of those 3 seasons, you have improved a lot from an individual perspective. What would you say has been the biggest improvement you've made to your game?
I think just breaking the little habits like I had from high school that I guess I didn't realize were like bad habits. And I think that's definitely important how a player can improve, like not just thinking about things you can, like obviously thinking about things you can get better in, but also finding something like that's something I need to work on, trying to get rid of that bad habit. I like would always pull under. That was my like dodge, and I would do it anywhere, even when you're not supposed to. I'd, like run into people, so that was like an issue. So I just need to break that like muscle memory. I just like always wanted to do it. And so I definitely focused on that, broke that habit, and I think that made me such a better player. And then after that, I was able to focus on like other facets of my game and get that even better. And then also just finding your thing. I feel like that was I always knew like my thing was being fast and just really harping on that. Even if you're good at something doesn't mean you should keep working on it, I think. So I
Hmm.
feel like that's what made me able to excel individually this past year and just get better every year is just focusing on breaking a bad habit that your coach will tell you, make you aware of, obviously. Um, and then being able to harp on the things that will make you better.
Now, I have a couple of sort of random lacrosse questions I want to ask you before we end this interview off. I really love the Denver jerseys with the mountains on them, but I'm curious what your favorite lacrosse, who has the best, I guess, lacrosse jerseys in all the country besides your team?
That's hard. I love our jerseys. The mountains are sick. Oh, that's a good question. I love Carolina blue. I mean, it's such a great color.
Hmm.
That's all I can really think of. Um, I think they have a great uniform. Yeah, I would say UNC.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I would say John Hopkins, sort of a different type of blue than North Carolina, but I really like
Mhm.
sort of the alternate baby blue or the black and blue combo. I think that looks
Yeah,
really cool.
they have a good one too. I agree. Yeah.
Now, what are some things to help that should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think just definitely like I would say on campuses because um I think that's where it can start. If it's really popular at a school, then that'll take attention of like the outside world of making women's lacrosse larger. And just definitely schools being aware that like putting as much effort into a women's lacrosse game as a men's hockey game, as much as they can, which obviously is hard because football or hockey is probably making them more money. But like, and I think my school definitely does a good job as that, or and any school does as good as they can. But I would say on campuses, like trying to get people out to your games, trying to spread the word about how well your team's doing, or even if whatever, to spread the word about your team is definitely how women's lacrosse would grow, I would think.
Yeah. How is the student sort of involvement like at your games? I'm curious about that because you don't go to a football school, but men's hockey is obviously probably the number one sport at Denver, I would imagine. So I'm curious sort of what the student involvement's like at Denver from your perspective as a player.
Yeah. Sports in general are really big at Denver. We have like an amazing athletic program, which I guess I didn't really know going in. Like I knew hockey was good in lacrosse, but
Hmm.
yeah, we excel in like a lot of sports, which is so fun. So I think the athletes all really support each other is what I see. Like we always go to men's or women's soccer games. We always go to hockey, but hockey's super popular. But I think just if we go to games and other people come to our games in at least athletics, but definitely spreading the word. I wouldn't say it's like super popular with like other students sometimes. But trying to get it out there just because it's
Yeah.
better. Like not many people know what women's lacrosse is. A lot of the
Yeah.
soccer players don't even know. So um I guess just spreading the word and getting people who do know what it is to like bring their friends and stuff like that.
No, I
But we
totally
definitely have
agree.
support.
That's good to hear that you have support because I feel you guys deserve a lot more support because you're a great team, have some great players, and definitely got to try to get those attendance numbers as best as they can because
Yeah,
I
for
feel like
sure.
that you want to create a great atmosphere when you guys go out on the field for sure, especially from the student body.
Yeah. No, playing on Peter Barton's the best
Hmm.
thing ever. I love our field and we definitely get support also from like locals, like families,
Yeah.
because the only really like in Maryland, you can go to a Maryland game, a Hopkins game, a Loyola game. There's a lot of options, which is awesome. And they probably have so many fans more than we do, but we're kind of like the only option for women's lacrosse
Mhm.
or really lacrosse in general to watch. So gives us fans there.
Now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, and friends, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Um, I guess just shout out to like my whole team, all my family. Who should I have on the podcast next? I thought of someone or I don't know if you guys do goalies, but my goalie Amelia Bohai has a really cool story about how she started lacrosse. She started at a young age, or not a young age, an older age the most, and she's like an
Hmm.
amazing goalie. So I think she has a cool story. So I would say
Yeah.
Amelia.
Yeah, we definitely got to get more goalies on. I feel like we've only had
Yeah.
one or two on in the podcast in the past, so definitely reach out and see what she has to say.
Or my teammate Lauren Black. She's also going. She's an attacker. She's Canadian. She just played in
Hmm.
Hong Kong, so she has super cool stories about being on Team Canada.
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I think you're a great player, even better person, and I just want to let you know that. But best of luck to your team next season. It's going to be fun to watch.
Thank you.